Grow cabbage in a bottle using this simple method, a soil stories guide for urban and backyard gardeners. If you've been hanging around soil stories for any amount of time, you already know I love methods that turn everyday items into powerful gardening tools, and today, I'm sharing one of my absolute favorites, growing cabbage in a bottle. Yes, an actual plastic bottle. This isn't just a fun experiment, it's a surprisingly effective growing technique that saves space, conserves water, and lets you observe your cabbage's entire root system like a living science project. Whether you garden on a balcony, a tiny backyard, or a full homestead, this method works beautifully. Let me walk you through the process step by step, gardener to gardener, just as I would if we were chatting over seedlings and soil. Before we dive into the how, let's talk about the why, because this method genuinely earns its place in a gardener's toolkit. Growing cabbage in a bottle gives you unmatched control. You can monitor soil moisture at a glance, protect young roots from pests, and transplant with minimal shock since the root ball stays completely intact inside the bottle. It's also incredibly space efficient. If you don't have room for a full garden bed or large container, a cut plastic bottle gives your cabbage exactly what it needs without crowding your living space. And perhaps my favorite benefit, it helps new gardeners understand cabbage behavior. How it drinks, how it anchors itself, and how steadily it bulks up over weeks. It is a hands-on visual way to grow smarter. The success of your cabbage in a bottle project begins with the container. I recommend a 2-liter plastic bottle because it provides enough vertical room for root development without constraining the plant. Clear bottles let you observe root growth, but shaded bottles reduce algae. So, pick what excites you most. Start by washing the bottle thoroughly with warm water and a little soap. Remove labels so sunlight can reach the soil if you want root visibility. Then, cut off the top portion of the bottle about 10 to 12 centimeters from the cap, creating a wide, open pot. If your cap is still on, remove it and make 3 to 5 small drainage holes along the bottom edges of the bottle. Proper drainage is essential because cabbage roots dislike sitting in waterlogged soil. Cabbage is a heavy feeder, even when grown in a small vessel, and since bottle gardening limits the amount of soil your plant can access, you need a rich, well-balanced mix. I always go for a blend that feels alive. One that's loose, earthy, and full of nutrients. A combination of garden soil, compost, and a handful of well-rotted manure works beautifully. The compost ensures steady nutrient release, while manure gives cabbage the nitrogen boost it needs during the early growth stages. For urban gardeners who don't have access to outdoor soil, a commercial vegetable potting mix enriched with worm castings works just as well. Just be sure your final mixture drains easily, while still holding enough moisture to keep the roots hydrated. A fluffy but nutrient-dense soil gives your cabbage the push it needs to thrive in a compact space. Once your bottle is filled with soil, leave about 3 to 4 centimeters of space at the top. It's time to introduce your cabbage. You can start with seeds or a seedling, and both work wonderfully in a bottle. If you choose seeds, place 2 or 3 on the surface, lightly cover them with soil and mist gently. Bottle environments warm up faster than garden beds, so germination often happens quickly. Once the seedlings are around 7 to 10 centimeters tall, thin them out, and leave the strongest one to continue growing. If you're working with a seedling, make a small hole in the center of the bottle, nestle the roots in carefully and gently firm the soil around it. You'll notice cabbage responds very quickly to being settled into fresh soil, especially one enriched with compost. This early stage is where the magic starts. You'll see the plant anchor itself and begin forming sturdy new growth within days. One of the most common cabbage growing mistakes is inconsistent watering, but with a bottle, you can see exactly what's happening inside the soil. Water until you see moisture collecting lightly at the bottom drainage holes. The bottle's transparency allows you to monitor the water line and avoid both underwatering and drowning the roots. You'll also see when the top layers dry out and when deeper layers still hold moisture. Keep the soil consistently damp, not soggy. A balanced watering routine encourages strong roots and prevents cabbage from becoming leggy or stressed. And here's a tip I personally love: Use the cut top of the bottle as a mini greenhouse dome during the early weeks. Just flip it over and place it loosely above the seedling. This traps humidity and protects the young plant from wind and temperature swings. Cabbage is a hungry plant, especially in confined soil. After 3 weeks of steady growth, begin feeding with a mild organic fertilizer every 10 to 14 days. Compost tea, liquid seaweed, or a diluted manure solution are excellent choices. Watch how your cabbage responds. Bottle-grown cabbage often grows more compactly but forms tight, beautiful heads if consistently fed. You'll notice each new outer leaf broadening and thickening, wrapping itself around the forming core. If your cabbage leaves appear pale, it's usually a sign of nitrogen deficiency. A small dose of compost tea usually corrects this quickly. Remember, in bottle gardening, nutrients drain faster, so feeding regularly is key to success. Cabbage prefers full sun, but in hot climates, especially during dry seasons, a bottle can heat up faster than a ground bed. Place your bottle where it receives 4 to 6 hours of sun and partial shade during the hottest part of the afternoon. If you live in a cooler region, feel free to give it more light. The bottle retains warmth beautifully, great for pushing steady growth. Rotate the bottle every few days so the plant grows upright and evenly. You can grow cabbage all the way to maturity inside a bottle. It's absolutely possible. But if you want a larger head, you can transplant it once the plant becomes too big for the container. The beauty of bottle gardening is that transplant shock is almost non-existent. Simply squeeze the bottle gently, loosen the soil, and slide the entire root ball out. Everything stays intact: the roots, the soil structure, the moisture. Replant your cabbage in a garden bed or a bigger pot, water well, and watch it explode with new growth. Depending on your variety and climate, cabbage takes between 70 and 90 days to mature. You'll know it's ready when the head feels firm and solid when gently squeezed. Cut the head at the base with a sharp knife and enjoy the crisp, sweet taste of homegrown cabbage. Grown from nothing more than everyday waste plastic and good soil, bottle gardening turns simple materials into a rich harvest, and there is nothing more satisfying for a gardener. Growing cabbage in a bottle is more than just a clever technique. It's a reminder that gardening doesn't require perfection, money, or wide spaces. It only needs curiosity, a willingness to try, and the joy of watching something grow under your care. If this guide inspired you or taught you something new, make sure to subscribe to Soil Stories, hit that like button, and share this article with another gardener who loves creative growing methods. Let's keep learning, growing, and turning simple stories into thriving soil magic together.